Yes, definitely.
And the Spirit is our liaison.
Right. Right. And he leads us, and we get it from his word, and all different types of things. So we have that too. So if you think about what Paul's trying to do here, he is giving you a case that he's basically saying, why are you not humble? We're going to get to that sentence in a second. But he is working on these concepts. You have this, you have this, you have this, you have this, and you have this. And then when he gets through saying what he's going to say, he jumps down to verse 5, and he kind of just makes us feel really terrible about ourselves for a few minutes. That's kind of that's how I take it when I read it. All right, so very good. Thank you so much for that. All right, and the next part of that, he talks about any affection and sympathy. All right, so I kind of wrote down there, that's also compassion, the compassion that we have for, that we get, that we receive, and then compassion obviously for others. Kind of jumping down here to verse 2. And so Paul's saying, so if there's anything in encouragement, any comfort from your love, any participation in the Spirit, any affection, any sympathy, complete my joy by being of the same mind, having the same love, being full of accord, of one mind. So what does it mean by the same love? Or let's just start with that. Excuse me. Let's start before that. The same mind. What does it mean to have the same mind?
That our beliefs are congruent, that we believe the word similarly and don't go off in the tangents.
Okay, yeah, I like that. We're trying to all stay on the straight and narrow. We're trying not to veer off too much. I agree. What else? Anything else? That's definitely the basis. I think that's the basis. To me, when I hear the same minds, we're kind of working towards the same goals. We all have the same goal. What is our goal here, by the way?
To get to heaven.
Get to heaven first. What else? And take as many people as we can. Oh, I mean, we've heard that phrase a million times. I have. My question is, we're not raising our hands saying who is and who ain't, but is that really what we think? Is that what you worry about today? Is that what you worried about yesterday? Do you really have that concept? And that's the mindset I feel like we need to have on our forefront. No matter what you are, if you're in a retired land, then that's a great place to live, and I can't wait to live in a retired land, versus working world, or unfortunately for some of y'all, heading toward working world, or maybe just dabbing in it right now, a couple years, and retirement seems so far away. But that should be our mindset every morning that we get up. It's not only me getting there, but me taking as many people as I can. That, in my opinion, is same mind. So if we have that mindset, and that is our mindset, then what are we willing to do for everyone? I'll ask lots of loaded questions, by the way, too.
Whatever it takes.
Whatever it takes. So ask yourself, are you willing to do whatever it takes to get yourself there and as many people as you possibly can? Because that's really that's the whole, I think, a pivotal moment of this phrase here, of this verse. Are you really willing to do it? And he's going to show us one way to do it. Now, obviously, throughout Philippians, he's going to talk about different ways. But is that our mindset? Do we really have that mind? And that's the same mind, and that's what he's talking about. And what is Paul saying here? He goes, listen, guys, we know where Paul is. Where's Paul at right now when he's writing this? He's in prison, probably in chains. I don't know if you know a lot about Roman prisons. We actually did a study on this years ago, and it talks about Roman prisoners were not treated very well. Now, he may have been moving up, getting a little bit better. But at one time, the way the prisons were designed in Rome, you were chained to walls and chained to different things. But they had you chained just right to where you could never get comfortable. Like your backside didn't sit just right. The way your arms were, they were just not comfortable. And so you had to constantly pivot and move. In certain prisons. I don't know if this is necessarily the one he's living in, but in certain ones. And so he's asking, listen, I'm in here under what? Because somebody stuck me in here for doing what I was supposed to do. I'm just asking you guys kind of get it together out there. That's Randy's version. I call that the RLT translation, Randy Lightner translation. You guys need to get together. All these things that I'm asking you to do that I've been doing, and I need you to do this. I need to be heading in the right direction because I'm in here and I'm stuck in here, but I was trying to do what was right. And if you really want me to be, and it would be hard for me not to do, if you want to complete my joy. In other words, if you want to make it worth my time, make me feel good about this decision of sitting in here. I'm begging you and asking you. You have all these things. Why not do it? Okay? Kind of jumped ahead there, but I think it works. So by having the same mind, having the same love, okay, being full of accord and of one mind. So let's go to verse 3. It says, do nothing from rivalry or conceit. Somebody has another translation. What does it say?
Do nothing from selfish ambition.
Nothing. Nothing. Such a final word.
Trying to impress others.
All right, yeah, I think it's not only trying to impress others, but it's taking it to the next level of what? Don't do anything, what? On your own, for your personal gain. Yes, sir.
But don't be selfish in front of that.
Yes, you're 100% correct. Yes, he's taking it, yes.
I think it gets back to this, when you ask the question, what does it mean to be of one mind? Certainly we have similar beliefs and we are striving for the same goal. But I think also what it means here, to have unity. Unity only works if I'm looking out for you and you're looking out for me. Once we start looking out for ourselves, then we're all going different directions. But if we're all looking out for one another, we are of one mind in that sense, and then we can have unity. It's the only way to mission.
Right. Yeah, a lot of times, and this is kind of a Randy side note here, but a lot of times we talk about church growth and why we're not growing. If you'll just look at Acts 2 and Acts 3 and 4 and a bunch of those guys and look at the first century church, there's a lot of things that we're not doing that they did. They have they're all of one mind. They were selling all their possessions, make sure nobody had anything of need, all those things. And so a lot of times I feel like we're missing the big picture. We feel like we got to have this, this, and this. And really, if we just went back to that would really help us grow the most. Why? That's a side note. We're off this for a second, but I just jumped because you said it. Why is that? Why did it grow back then and seem like so much?
You're not focused on self, you're focused on others.
Yes. And how would you not want to be a part of a group of people that would sell all they have to make sure you're not going without? I mean, why would you not want to be a part of that? I mean, I would. Why would you not want to be a part of a group of people who are really genuinely, not hammering you because you missed services last week, but are genuinely concerned about your soul and really miss you being there personally? It's just something to think about. But it's excellent. Thank you so much. All right, so it says, do nothing, of course, like I said, but in humility count others more significant than yourselves. So not only are you supposed to do anything out of rivalry or conceit or selfishness or empty conceit, but place others more significant than ourselves. Who is that limited to? Who are we real good at putting ahead of ourselves? Who are we pretty decent at? Our families, wouldn't we all say that? Our spouses, kids, whoever. We put them up ahead of ourselves. We count them more significant than ourselves. But it's the complete strangers is where it starts getting harder. It's the people we don't know. It's the coworker that you cannot stand, that you have to ride a fire truck with, for me. Not right now, apparently. I like my whole crew. They're great. That's who we're talking about. That's who we're supposed to be putting above ourselves, more significant than ourselves, is the people we don't like, the complete stranger. Why is that so hard? Why is it easy to do it with family members and close friends and not with complete strangers?
Because we get something out of it.
Yes. It's like giving a Christmas gift and then mad that somebody didn't give you one back. What was the point in the first place? I used to joke about that, but when we do things at Northport back in the day, we'd have these, I used to call them Dirty Secret Santa gift or something like that. But anyway, we'd have these gifts, everybody get one, and some people would actually spend the whole $10 and then somebody find a piece of trash off the road and pack it and hand it off, and they'd get really mad. Like I had somebody give a traffic cone one time. I'm like, first of all, you need to take this back to T-Dot. They're going to be really upset that their cone's missing. This person spent $10, $15 on a gift, and they got a traffic cone, and they were upset. And I was like, this is a game, right? Okay. Yes, he did cheat a little bit. He didn't spend any money. But that's how we are. If I'm going to give you something, I expect it back. Now, what if Christ had went with that mentality? And we're going to get to him in a second, chapter in verse 5. What if Christ had went with that mentality? I'm only going to do this if everybody else reverberates back this thankfulness that they should have for me. We'd all be lost, by the way.
And so far, everything we talk about in 2, 3, and 4
Yes, sir.
goes back to verse 1 on the part that, we've got to have hearts that are tender and compassionate.
Yes, sir.
And if you don't have that, you're sure not going to accomplish any of those other things.
Yes, sir. How do we get to that point, though, since you said that? How do we get to that point where we have those things?
Well, I think it takes practice.
You're exactly right. I wrote this down as a side note. I said it's the small, how we deal with the small stuff will tell us, y'all can quote me on this one. How we deal with the small stuff is going to tell us how we're going to deal with the big stuff. I know that's Randy's Coker version. I live in Coker, used to, way down there, 82. But that's it. How we deal with little things is going to help us learn to deal with big things. So if you get really irate at the woman at Target for knocking your buggy out of the way, which they'll do that down there at Target, you got to watch it, okay? You never know what's on sale. At that dollar aisle, you don't go down that door unless you just want to get hurt. But if you get mad at her for cutting you off at Target and you was going to go get whatever for $1, you're really going to get mad if something bad happens down the road. And I just use that as an example. I think it's funny, but that really tells what kind of character you have and which path you're on or where you need, how much more advanced you need to get. We should become the type of people, this is my interpretation, and I am not at this level by no means, but we should get almost to the point as people that really nothing bothers us. We're not there, not even close. I'm not. Joe, you're really close. Your wife just moved away from you, though, so you must have said something bad. All right. Hey, Joe, don't worry about it. It's probably on mic somewhere. All right. Sorry, I got distracted there. So how do we do that? We got to practice. And when does that start, by the way? When's practice start? In here. As soon as I leave here, getting cut off in traffic. In the morning when you go to work, it's nonstop. You're not going to reach it, but you're going to be so much better. I was thinking about this myself personally. In my 20s, my patience was very low, and in my 40s, it's a lot better. And I can't wait. I'm not really looking forward to the aging process as far as my joints hurting worse than they do right this second. But I can't wait to see how if I keep growing on the path I'm going, I'm going to be all right in my 60s. I'm really pretty pumped about 60s. Okay. I feel like I'm going to do all right because I have grown so much since my 20s. It's not a pat on the back, but this is a personal reflection on mine that I have come a long way. And if you didn't know me when I was 20, then we don't talk about when I was 20. Joe does. But everybody else pretty much in this building don't know me in my 20s. I've come a long way and still have a long way to go. And that's how we should be able to do. We should be able to see ourselves through the years and how we've progressed and how we get to this point. But it does take practice. I kind of went off on that side note, but it does take practice for sure. So verse 4, of course, like I said, let each of you look not only of his own interest, but also the interest of others. Let each of you look not only in his own interest, but also to the interest of others. All right, what's that mean, guys? And I'm going to tell you what some people will use it as, but what does that mean? It kind of reiterates, like I said, it talks a little bit pretty much about 3. I can just hear my shoes squeaking. It's so quiet. What do y'all think? Come on. Scott told me y'all just come up here and throw a sentence out and y'all take care of everything for me. So, what do you think? You personally, what does that mean? Not only look at your own interest, but also to the interest of others. Does that mean you need to be a busybody and kind of keep an eye on everybody? Obviously, no. That's not what it means.
Don't be so busy going about your own day that you don't see the people around you.
Exactly right. Don't be so busy that you can't see what's going on around you with other people in their lives. Don't get so caught up in your life. It's kind of like if you ever buy a car and it's a certain color, you did not realize there's 40,000 green Jeeps riding around. This is the first time you've ever seen it. I was like, what? There's one and there's not that many, but I still look for them. Tomorrow, guys, look, y'all tell me how many red cars you see tomorrow, because there's a lot of those. You're going to see them everywhere. You're exactly right. If we look for it, it's there. And so we can, if we're not careful, Paul here's reminding them, if you keep just looking out for yourselves, you're not going to be able to pay attention. You're not going to be able to look out for other people's interests. You have got to make it what? You've got to make it a priority. That today, or tomorrow, whenever, every day, I'm going to start putting other people's interests above mine. Almost to the point of what? That their interests do what? To my interest. They supersede my interest. And then we get to the ultimate humility. That the people around me and their spiritual well-being is almost more important than my spiritual well-being. Even though I'm not sacrificing myself in that thought process. But that's the type of servant that I need to be. Yes, sir.
If you go back to your original premise, which is point, then we should really do what you're talking about. It's like, I have to maintain, I can't like. But what I really should be doing at this point is not spending time on myself, but trying to help others. But to do that, you have to, like, this has been kind of the theme of this conversation, you have to get to that point where you have some comfort in your salvation, which that's the encouragement of Jesus, that's all these things we talk about. But at that point, then it's not about you anymore. We need to get to that point where now I need to have as many people with me as I can. And that should be fairly early on in the Christian walk.
Yes. Well, and in my personal experience, I'll just tell you this. I probably grew more when I was a college minister than I was in any other time of my existence as a Christian up to this point. I really did. Because not only did I have to teach it, I had to walk it. Now, I failed miserably a lot in that time frame because we had old Randy versus new Randy, and it's fighting a lot. But I put myself in a role to where I had to sacrifice my time. I had to sacrifice lots of things. But I grew leap years in those short time that I got to do.
So why was that?
I'm kind of a lot more like Samson. I'm just going to be honest with you. Not the strength side or the hair. But I'm a lot like Samson because I'm motivated. When you prod me and make me do something, I'm better that way. I kind of got through into that. And when I say that is our minister left. We didn't have anybody. I felt kind of bad. I was driving this bus every once in a while in the van. I was like, I've taught a few classes. I could try this. And so I think that was a good Lord's way to kind of prod me into it. And almost not force me, but get it to where I almost couldn't say no. And then constantly, that's how I'm reminded. That's how Samson, think about Samson's life. The only time he did what he's supposed to do is if it came personal and if it was an attack against him or somebody in his family. That's how he did it. Well, Randy's the same way. It has to be personal. It has to hit me in the face to get me to be motivated. I grew.
And what I was fishing for there is, look how you had to put other folks' interests ahead of your own.
And saying that, I was very selfish starting out. But as I transitioned as a minister and continue to transition, even in a different type of ministry role now, I'm still trying to put other people's needs. I had to put their needs in front of mine. Like I said, forced almost, if I was going to do it at any decent account. And now, it's much more habit and much more, a lot easier for me now than it was then. But yeah, it was like a struggle for a long time.
Randy, I remember one of the first classes I ever taught. It's kind of a similar revelation you're talking about as a very young man, very long time ago. And it was about contagious Christianity is basically the book I was using. And it goes to the car example you talked about. When I would study it, I'd spend my day at work, and then I'd spend some time in my office studying that book. And it was shocking how many opportunities I had to talk about Jesus in an average day all of a sudden. They just sprung up everywhere. Right?
Yes.
Somebody would say something about this or that. And maybe it was just because I had a Bible on my desk. That helped. But
Yes.
When we're in that frame of mind, the opportunities are, you wouldn't believe it. Like, if somebody were like, it's almost like watching a show where the person's not aware of their surroundings. Like, there are so many opportunities in your daily life to evangelize that you don't even notice because you're not in that mindset.
No. And I think that's really what Paul's trying to remind us here is you're going to have to put yourself in those situations. You're going to have to put other people's needs. You're going to have to humble yourselves, or this just ain't going to work. It's just not. You're not going to be where you need to be or where the church needs to be if you just don't. And we need to start humbling ourselves at 20, at 30, at 40, at 50, 60, 70, 80, however old we are. It's time to humble ourselves even more than we currently are. We never arrive until you open your eyes and they let you in the pearly gates. That's pretty way I look at it. And still, even that, I say sometimes jokingly, if they'll just let me sit outside, I'm good with it. They don't even have to let me in. If I just sit up against the fence, I'm good. I'll just be glad. But that's a problem. Sometimes our pride gets us, that's what gets us the most trouble is our pride. We kind of start thinking about ourselves, especially as you start, as a young adult, start getting married and having families and all that stuff. It's not that those are all, none of that's all good stuff, but you get too focused. You can almost become too focused. I see that a lot with young adults sometimes. And ministry changes, and I wanted to say that, and putting other people's needs ahead of yourself. One thing I try to tell people, me and Jordan joke about this sometimes, and I say, my principal or other people around me that don't really understand. All right, so if you don't know, I teach high school now, and so part-time, I still work as full-time as a firefighter, and thank you for your service. I appreciate it. I get that sometimes, but It's been an easy gig, ain't been too bad. You know, if you don't mind death and fire and all that other stuff, it's not a big problem at all. But what I say, I'm joking about that, but ministry has changed for me. And I'm going to be honest with you, I would not be a decent high school teacher if I hadn't been a college minister before. I go ahead and tell you. Because I am pushed to my limits. Not as bad as I used to be. But I was pushed to my limits in ministry. Now, what's tough is working in spiritual stuff in a school system. Being very careful about that. But I told Jordan, I said, boy, I got jumped on a chance the other day. That's just an example. One of my kids had I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me tattooed on his arm. Well, you're just going to get asked that question because it's on your arm. I can just ask that question. Of course, he had no idea what that meant, but we had a small discussion. We're going to have one every day as he makes good decisions based off that tattoo from now on, which is what I reminded him. So we have to work at it different. But putting people who I know are not going to, and that's where I think trying to be humble where it really comes from, is putting yourself out there, putting people's needs ahead of yours where you know you're not going to get paid back. That's the ultimate test of the Christian. Is you putting yourself out there so much that there is not a chance that they're ever going to pay you back or even thank you for it. Then you know you're not have arrived, but you're in a better place than you used to be. And you do that by small things. Yes, Mr. Wayne.
Randy, if we've been talking about this, I've been thinking about the concept of love, where God loved us so much, and that's humbling. He loved us so much, He gave us His Son, His only Son. And then Jesus humbled Himself. He was with God. He had everything He needed and wanted. And yet, He humbled Himself to come to this earth and suffer and die. And He experienced everything we ever did. But yet, because of this concept of love, maybe if we love people more, it would be easier to be humble. Easier.
Yes.
Not easy.
Not easy at all. It's not
Because
everything.
we would be seeking their needs and seeing how we can help maybe bring them to Christ. I don't know, that's just an idea.
No, I like it. It's an excellent idea. So, humility. All right, so I've only got just a couple minutes. We'll read the last part. I won't get no big detail. I'll let Scott kind of handle that part. Starting in verse 5, it says, all right, so think about what we've just read. He's talking about how we need to become, the humility that we need to develop. And then he goes into 5, and this is kind of the, oh, by the way, in case you hadn't been doing what you're supposed to do, let me remind you why you should be doing. That's kind of the way I read this. It's have this mind among yourselves, which is yours in Christ Jesus, who, though he was in the form of God, did not count equality with God a thing to be grasped, but made himself nothing, taking the form of a servant, being born in the likeness of men, and by being found in human form, he humbled himself by becoming obedient to the point of death, even death on the cross. Therefore God has highly exalted him and bestowed on him the name that is above every name, so that at the name of Jesus every knee should bow in heaven and on earth and under this earth, and under the earth, and every tongue confess that Jesus Christ is the Lord, to the glory of God the Father. So he tells us here in the first few verses, if there's any encouragement, which we know there is, but it's almost like he's a little sarcastic there, like, is there really any encouragement? Of course there is. He tells us how we should be of same mind, same love, of one mind, nothing from rivalry or conceit, being humble, counting people's more significant than ourselves. And then he says, and this is kind of the punch in the face kind of thing that I like about it, he says, you have no excuse not to do this, because guess who did it and how high he was and was able to do it? You're already down here. Why are you feeling sorry for yourself and you can't handle this when he came from up there and give all that up? Everything. He didn't come in with any kind of advertisement, hey, I'm Son of God. Hey, I was there during creation. He didn't have any of that kind of stuff going on. And so I think what Paul is saying in these 11 verses is, this is what you should be doing. I don't understand why we're not here yet. And oh, by the way, you ain't really got any excuses because he was here and he was able to do it. And he had plenty of reasons not to be humble. I mean, I just summed up that in 11 verses for you, but I'm just telling you that's kind of what it means to me. So when we have these times of pride and these egos that we develop, okay? And we're not willing to do something, not willing to try something out. We're not willing to test ourselves. Paul here is saying, and I'm going to let Scott get to it because I'm at 7:59 right now. Scott will get to it in more detail. But what Paul's really saying there is, why would you not? You have no excuse. Who are you, by the way? What have you done for the greatest part of mankind? Nothing. And so we have somebody here who's came, he's already done it, who came from so high. And I think sometimes we forget that highness that he was and all that is about him. And he kind of details it. I can take it apart a little bit more, but I won't for time's sake. So my challenge to you in the 30 seconds that I have left is this. Y'all said I was long-winded. I just timed it right. Okay. Be humble. I saw her this in the song. Be humble and be kind, of course. But even further past that, okay? Really put others' needs, not just your family's needs. You've got practice doing it because you've been doing it with your family for a long time. Challenge yourself this week as we start back tomorrow to put somebody else's need. It doesn't have to be some big grand gesture. I joke about this. I'll tell a story real quick. So I taught a lesson very similar to this one time. I said, you know what? I got to do a better job. I put myself out there and get better. I'm going to put myself out there. And so I stopped by and I saw this lady at Best Buy one time in the parking lot. And I said, are you all right? She's like, yeah. That's my voice when I do my impression of myself because I can't impress myself. But anyway, are you all right? Anyway, she says, well, I'm hungry and I need a ride. And this is before COVID, obviously. And I said, well, sure. I'll be happy to. So I load up. She lives on Skyland. I'm at Best Buy on McFarland. And so I'm like, yeah, no big deal. I'm pretty scary looking at the time, so I'm not really worried about her. And so we're driving down the road. And I said, well, what exactly would you like to eat? She says, I really don't care. I said, well, okay, there's plenty of restaurants. She says, I tell you, I hadn't had pizza in a long time. I said, okay, pizza. Sounds great. And so I said, what kind of pizza would you like? She says, well, we're coming up on Pizza Hut on Skyland. She said, I really like Pizza Hut. I said, Pizza Hut, that sounds awesome. So I pull in a Pizza Hut. I said, all right, let's order you some pizza. Let's order you something. You know, I was thinking personal pan. I wasn't thinking 5 extra larges, which is what she ordered when she walked up there. 5 extra larges. I was like, wallet. Yeah, I got my wallet. Good, I'm good. So she orders 5 extra large, 1 pepperoni, 1 sausage, 1. She's like, and then my favorite part, she looks at me and asks me if I want anything. I said, no, I'm good. I'm great. But she explains to me she got kids at the house, and I said, hey, that's fine. 5 pizzas. I was like, I came for like a slice or 2 on personal pan, but not 5. And then asked me if I wanted anything, which is the best part ever. It's 3 o'clock. I'm already full. So I ordered the 5 pizzas. I take her and drop her off. She lived in pretty very modest housing, so it wasn't no big deal. But I joked about it. I was like, you know what? I got exactly what I asked for. I said, you know what? I need to be more humble. I need to put other people's needs in, and I won't even not get paid back. You're exactly right. That lady still owes me for them 5 pizzas. I'm just playing. But it's amazing how if you say something or even think a thought, it's going to, the door knocking that you was talking about, that opportunity is in your face all around you. So what I'm asking you for, don't be scared. It's just 5 pizzas. Okay? It's not that big a deal. All right? And so humble ourselves this week. Try to challenge yourselves. And just kind of put other people's needs above your own, besides your family members, which is still great too. But anyway. All right. I am done with you. It's 8:02. I knew that was going to be a great story to close with. So thank y'all for your time. I appreciate it.